I just had a baby and I'm worried that when he grows up he is going to find out about my past. I grew up with a very loving family, but we were always at the low end of middle class, sometimes dipping into poverty. My mom worked hard so that I could go to good schools and always have food on the table. However, I wanted more. I wanted what my friends had and what I saw on TV. So when I turned 18 I became a sugar baby. I got everything I thought I wanted. I had the fast cars, trips to Europe, and no spending limit on my Amex card. I lived this way for years. Then I got tired of being abused and demeaned. I wanted love and happiness that all that money couldn't buy. I divorced him and walked away from everything. Then I met my husband. He is the love of my life and knows about my past. We live a very nice middle-class life and we just had a baby. I couldn't be happier. Now I'm worried my son is going to find out. It's been a lengthy process changing my old married name to my maiden name and now to my new married name. I still get mail with my old name or I find an account that I forgot to change over. I also live in a state where records are free to the public. You can find marriage, divorce, house deeds, and more just with an online search. I'm worried he's going to find out that part of my life. Or worse, find pictures online. I love my son so much and I just don't want him to ever think bad of me and know my shame. What can I do, and if there is nothing I can do, how to explain this to him? Edit. I just wanted to say thank you for all your kind words and responses. I am trying to like each comment as a thank you for taking the time to read my post and write a comment. He's going to love you no matter what. Raise him to respect women and he won't shame you. Where are the pictures? Consult a lawyer about removing them or look into copyright laws to see if you can get them removed that way. If it's revenge porn, press charges. I wouldn't say marrying an older rich guy makes you a sugar baby. This isn't sex work, though even if it was, there is nothing to be ashamed of doing what you are comfortable with to survive. He's not going to judge you for it. If you're worried about it, you can speak about it in general terms. You were married ONCD before to someone wealthy, it didn't work out and you were lucky enough to meet his father instead. When it's age appropriate, I see no issue with you telling him the truth. It's a teachable moment. I married for the wrong reasons, and even though I had everything that society tells you is important, I was miserable. Don't make the same mistake I did. The more human you come across to your kids, the more they'll feel comfortable being open and vulnerable with you. Life is a journey. When you know better, you do better, and that's exactly what you did. I see no shame in your story, only growth. Lots of sex workers are not shy in letting their children know what they did before they were born. Hiding it, though, just means that when they happen across it, the hurt will be so much more. So be open and honest about your previous sex work. It's nothing to be ashamed about. He might find out that you were married before, but all he really has to know is that you divorced, met and fell in love with his father, and married him. Raise him to be respectful and not to judge, and he won't judge you. Everyone has a past, and not everyone is proud of it, but it's what you do for him now and in the future that will matter the most. I think the best thing is honesty. Stay open with him as he grows and make sure you are approachable for any questions he may have. You don't have to volunteer that specific info, but if he asks if you were ever married before, tell the truth. With the internet these days, it's very hard to hide anything. The more secretive you are, the more interested he will be in learning more. I've seen how kids react when they find out a parent was married previously. The older they are, the more they feel as if they have been lied to. These are the consequences of your decisions. Your son might dislike you when he finds the truth. There isn't anything you can do about it now aside from being the best mother you can be. I think it's actually a good conversation topic to have with your child when he's old enough to understand. It's better to be honest and open about it than hide it until he finds out. You could say something like, "When I was very young, I had a different lifestyle because I didn't know what I wanted. I wanted superficial things, but then I realized it didn't make me happy. I actually wanted a meaningful life. We all make mistakes. Then I divorced the man I was married to and met your father. You learned a valuable lesson. Teach your son that lesson. If the day comes and he asks, you will be able to tell him why you were prostituting and why you no longer do. Choices have consequences and you will have to deal with them. If you do a great job as a wife and mother, then it will just be some embarrassing history. You can't change it. I mean, unless it's really easy to find out, kid probably won't. I know my mom did crazy shit back in the day, but I don't have any specifics. Most people only have vague knowledge of their parents' lives. Just don't mention it and boom. My point is, unless you tell him, he probably won't look. No one wakes up thinking their parents did crazy shit unless they have a reason. I think you're more worried about this than they would be. If you raise a child to be loving, respectful and a decent person, I doubt they would even care if they did find out. I can say if that were my position I wouldn't look at my mom any different. I don't know her as anything other than mom, and nothing I see, read, learn would ever change that. Most kids have a hard time believing that their parents might have had a life before their birth, let alone go internet searching to see it. It might not even ever come up. But if it does, be honest. It sounds like you carry a lot of shame about it. I hope you can set that down and realize that you don't have to be ashamed, not of poverty, not of the choices you made, or who you were then. Your child will love you regardless. My parents both have lives before getting married. My mom was, well, she had a very active dating life, to put it mildly, and my dad was married before, no kids, she cheated, none of that stuff really impacted my life at all, and I never judged either of them for it. Nothing was hidden from me, but there wasn't much to talk about besides the basics of what went on. They've been married over 30 years now, and none of that stuff matters whatsoever. I think the best thing you can do is simply be open. Tell him that you were married before, but it wasn't a healthy relationship prior to meeting his dad, so you left. You love his dad and are so thankful for the life you're building together. He doesn't need to know about every detail. My one suggestion is to be open about it. Don't try to hide it. Keep things simple and easy. I was married before your dad, but it didn't work out. Everyone is a WIP. Forgive yourself if you feel you need it. Personally, I don't. Most kids don't know or want to know anything about their parents' love life or history in detail. Unless you live as a very small town filled with gossipers, who knew you when, odds are most people are too busy living their own life. I suspect you're worrying about nothing or feeling undeserving. Don't feel guilty for being happy. Your future lies ahead of you and not behind you. Best wishes. If you were married to him, you weren't his sugar baby and he wasn't your sugar daddy. You were his wife and he was your husband. You got away from his abusive ass and made a better life for yourself. Now that life includes a husband worthy of the title and a child you both love. If shame helped you change your life, then it served its purpose. But now it has no place in your life and you don't need to hang on to it anymore. You did good. As someone's kid, I've never wondered about my parents' past relationships. Because I don't care. I don't really want to know who my parents slept with. And IDK any other kid who would go digging through public records to find it out either. I'm guessing your son would be like, Mom, why does it say ___ instead of ______? And you could be like, that's my old last name. And that would be the end of it. At least, that would satisfy me anyway. It's really not a big deal. Your past doesn't define you. Don't stress about it. You're a great person with a past, just like everyone on this earth. I think you're worried about nothing, and I don't think it's likely that your son would care that much to go digging through your history like that. Plus it just sounds like you just married an older man. So what? It will only be a big deal if you make it a big deal. Kids can handle simple explanations. Mommy used to be married to someone else. That's why we sometimes get mail addressed to name when I used to be married. That was my name. He wasn't as nice to me as he should have been, so I got a divorce and changed my name back to name, which is our family name from your parents. When I met Daddy, we treated each other nicely and started to love each other. When we got married, I changed my name to family name, and that the last name for our family, for me, for Daddy, and for you. I don't think your kid would know anything more about it than you having a previous marriage. He certainly can't get the details of your relationship from those records. It doesn't sound like you have done anything wrong. What if you never went down that road and longed after that lifestyle for years to come, and that caused you to resent those around you? You made a choice and you have experienced that side of life, and it shaped you into who you are now. You'll probably become a better parent because of it. I agree with others commenting here. We shouldn't shame people. Sex work or things along those lines isn't anything to be ashamed of in my books. I think as long as you're not hurting anyone and you're looking after yourself, then it's okay. If you raise your child to respect people, and educate him on women's rights etc., then you're setting him up to be a respectful and supportive man, and the world needs more of those. You are overthinking this. Your past is your past. And it made you who you are now. Everyone has a past and not everyone is particularly fond of the person they are now. I think erasing this part of your life from you as a person is not the way to go. Instead, this could be a teaching moment for your son in the far future. You could tell him about who you were and thought you wanted to be. You could tell him how much more important love and care are over materialistic things. You could tell him that he should not judge people too harshly based on their past because people grow. Your life experience is exactly that. Experience. Use it as that. I mean, Charles Manson's mom was a prostitute and he turned out okay. And #X200B. I mean. Hey, everything will turn out okay. And #X200B. Honestly though, all norms have changed and quite a few people are growing up with parents who took nude selfies which may be on the internet, or moms who were cam girls, or even people who did porn. So it's not really that unheard of before. Times have changed kinda. If you were married before, you weren't a sugar baby, you were a wife. Either way, nothing to be ashamed of, with your kid. We all make mistakes and learn lessons when we're young. That's the takeaway for you and your kid. Just raise your baby with love, kindness, and respect. The past will not matter if you have a strong bond. Also, teach your kids to listen, to forgive, and to realize that people sometimes make mistakes. Honestly, all little kids need to know about their parents' past is that their parents had lives before they were born. If, down the road, your son asks, simply tell him that when you were young, you were married to someone else and it didn't work out. So you got a divorce. Then you met dad, and the two of you fell in love and got married. That's all he needs to know. Your children are not entitled to know everything about their parents' past. Lastly, raise all your children to have self-respect. The rest will follow. Just tell him that you were married to a rich old guy before you met his dad. Kids don't like whoever else was a threat to their family anyway, even if it was a younger with less money than your dad. If somehow you're confronted with your past, it probably won't be a good scenario anyway. Hun, we all have a past. Maybe when he is much older you can explain the situation to him. Until then, don't let it eat you up. You are in a better marriage and in a different place in your life. Let the past go and focus on the present. Enjoy your family. You can fix that by telling him when he is young and reminding him that you and others made mistakes but are working to live a better life. He will not be judgmental about his dad when told young enough. My mom was an escort throughout my childhood and lied about it until I called her out at 13. I've never judged her, and if anything it shows she would have done anything for me and brings tears to my eyes. I know it's not exactly the same situation, but I'm sure he'll understand. One of my parents has a very scandalous past. Think drugs, crime, and just out of control behavior. Honestly, my parents' past is way more shameful than yours, not that you did anything wrong or shameful, but I really don't care. My parent is amazing and makes me feel so loved and safe. If you're a good parent, and I believe you will be, then your child will not care either. The future learns from the former. I tend to be proactive when it comes to these situations. That means when he is old enough, tell him. If the man you married understands, then why wouldn't his son? Don't live in the guilt or try to hide, cause you'll never get everything. Grow, heal, and be the best mom and wife you can be. Cause in my opinion that's all that you can do. Be honest with him. I met my partner online selling nudes to him so I could pay for my uni books. We are now in a committed relationship and have had another 2 children together. I already had a child from previous. You don't need to tell him you were a sugar baby, just that you were married before his father and you went on lots of trips, but that the man wasn't very nice so you left. I believe there are much worse pasts you could have had. I think he would understand, or it might cause minor drama if you are unlucky. Also, there are many women who still have the sugar daddy lifestyle in their future, not their past. You have learned, grown, and moved on. I have one friend who is obsessed with finding an older rich man for his money. I say if you're so worried about it, just be transparent with him as he grows. There is no reason to hide your truth from him as he grows curious. I'm the son of a transparent mother and it honestly strengthened my relationship because I know my mom will always be honest and let me know how it is. On the other hand, you can just ignore it. Out of mind, out of sight. I doubt your kid will look up his parents' history. Most don't. Just tell him the truth. Just not all of it. Tell him that you were married before but divorced because he was abusive or whatever is close to abusing and demeaning. Just make it age appropriate. And then later you met daddy. fell in love with him, got married and had a happy baby boy. Unless there is something you left out of your post, that story is 100% truthful and matches any state records he may come across. Honestly, keeping the secret will only hurt him. Your baby will find out about your past and you are the best person to tell that story. The hard part is going to be working out when to tell it and what you want them to learn from it. Don't spend your new life being paranoid of your old one. Teach your child what you learned in the right way so they don't have to learn it your way. Do right by your son. Love him and raise him right. Your past won't matter. Both my parents did sketchy shit when they were younger, but I love them for who they are now. Teach your children to make the best choice they can at the time they make that choice. Teach them that it is okay to make bad choices that were originally thought to be good, and to change them later. Teach your kids to not regret what they have done, but to learn from it. Mistakes are okay to make, and that without mistakes we never know why we succeed. And most importantly, teach your child that you made some mistakes when you were young, and that the best thing about you figuring out that they were mistakes was him. If you hide it like you are ashamed of it, people will treat you badly. If you own your mistakes, you have the right to expect to be treated decently. What is done, it's done. The past can't be taken. Now, you can't teach your child that decisions and what you do in life does matters. Sooner or later it does. Just love him without spoiling him too much and raise him to be non-judgmental. There are countless people living happy lives who feel they have a few skeletons in the closet. In many ways you gave up your former life for him. You don't need to tell him anything you don't want to. You were married to a wealthy older man before you met your now husband. So what? If you found out your mom did this as a young woman, you wouldn't love her any less, would you? Big warning to all of you thinking about sex work. Your kid will get bullied mercilessly. I mean, if you don't want people to know you're a prostitute, don't start prostitution. You should go to therapy to move past your shame and self-hatred. Like you said, you were doing what made you happy at that time. You need to learn to love and accept all aspects of yourself. Once you make peace with your past, being honest with your son, once it is age appropriate to do so, is the best option. Explain your motivations and the lessons you learned from the experience. Teach your son about gender inequality. Teach him about feminism. If he understands your circumstances and believes that women are equal, he will not look down on you. But the first step is not looking down on yourself. You used him for money and you gave your body. So why is it you describe it as you being abused and demeaned? I just can't stand this victim mindset that I see so many women have. Take accountability and don't play the victim card is my advice. If he finds out, then just own up to it. Most times, kids love you unconditionally anyway. I don't think it would matter for your child. The only person it would matter to would be your current husband, but he already knows and is okay with it, right?